Hi friends, this is your pal Scott Garibay, and today I'm going to do a channel specific video. And this channel specific video is literally just me musing about how people view my channel. So unless you are deep in the weeds, Scott Garibay fan, you feel free to skip this. This is very navel gazy. And you're like, well, why don't you just skip it? Because one of my favorite heroes is very navel gazy. John Dickerson, he's over on Slate Political Gabfest. He does, you know what? Hold on. Today I'm going to talk about the movie Fly Me to the Moon. All right. So the reason why I'm comfortable being navel gazy is John Dickerson. He's literally like the news anchor of CBS at this point. And I've been listening to him for 15 years on the Slate Political Gabfest. He's brilliant. And he does a podcast where he takes his own notebooks from 30, 40 years ago and literally reads them and then reflects on the things he wrote to himself 30 years ago. That it doesn't get more navel gazy than that. But I'm an intellectual. A lot of intellectuals, we're accused of navel gazing, and so this one's pretty deep in the weeds. So feel free to skip, but we're gonna get into it. All right. So I have this incredibly unusual channel. There really is no channel on the planet like mine. Like nobody does YouTube like me at all. Really, my stuff is incredibly unique. So I do D&D commentary. That's not unique at all, but a ton of guys do Dungeons and Dragons commentary. But Professor Dungeon Master actually broke it down, and he's like, there is 3 types of Dungeons and Dragons commentary. There's humor, like where you're making jokes about the D&D community and about D&D events. There is coverage, just covering what is happening on D&D. And then finally, there is configuration, right? Like how to be a good dungeon master, how to be a good player, how to run a module, how to do a ranger build, so configuration, right? I don't do any of those, literally none of them, right? What I do is I do commentary on D&D meta, on Dungeons and Dragons itself, its history, its present, its future, and then so that's unusual, right? Like I have I don't even cover any of the segments anybody else covers. Sometimes I will cover events, like that one is specific, but I don't do any. I never do humor, and I very much do not do in any way either. I don't do configuration. I don't tell you how to, I don't really do configuration that often. I might bounce into some of those every now and then, but I do cover events, but I deal with it at a meta level. I mostly talk about D&D canon, and then finally, on top of all that, what I believe about Dungeons and Dragons, literally no one in the world believes, which is I don't believe Dungeons and Dragons is a game. I don't believe it ever was a game, is a game now, or ever will be a game. I believe it's actually a human improvement engine created by Gary Gygax and literally hidden as a game to allow human beings to improve themselves, right? And so that is an incredibly unique view, right? And so I've been doing this for 10 years, and one of the things that I get in trouble with is I'm very negative to people who show up in the comments. And the reason why is there's just a lot of people who show up in the comments and they're generally negative. And then I respond negatively, and it's a little bit of a cycle, right? And so generally my channel scares the crap out of people. They just don't know what to think of it, right? They're just like, this is so weird. And so a lot of things about my channel upset people. One, it upsets people. It really upsets people that I don't do seal clap content, right? They're like, wait, nobody likes your content, Scott. You have hundreds of views and not a single like, right? Scott, your ratio, right? Like, yeah, exactly, right? And then, and that people just don't get it. They're like, if you're saying something that other people don't like, why would you continue to say it? That is very legitimate. That is a very good question, right? But it upsets people a lot. They do not like one person to be out there, like just kind of like saying their own thing and doing their own thing. It really upsets them, right? The other one is, oh, I'm independent, right? Like, no channels sound like my channel. I don't make any money on this channel, which allows me to actually have a free voice. I cannot, I'm not, saying like I'm not against capitalism, but once you take that dollar, you're going to settle down, and there's a whole lot of topics you ain't never going to talk about, right? And that just isn't my channel, right? That upsets people, right? That I'm actually independent, right? So my channel is so unique, and those two things right there are, enough to upset a lot of people, right? And oh, and here's the last one. Then a ton of people will say you're trolling. You don't actually believe what you're saying, right? You're just doing it for the clicks, and you're trolling. So one thing that I don't understand is where's this idea coming from that people make content that they don't want anyone to watch? Like, I've never found a content creator like that. Like, I want people to watch my stuff. So just so you're aware, every YouTuber creates content that they want people to click on, right? So if you think I want people to watch my stuff, yes, guilty as charged, right? Like, but that's every single YouTube creator ever, right? So then the next part is so everything there, let's put that on a shelf, okay? Now, it frustrates me, and I don't understand why everybody gets so upset about this, right? Until I saw Apple TV's movie, Fly Me to the Moon. Then I got it, right? That movie scares the living heck out of me. That thing is super, super weird, right? So I watched this thing. So first of all, I saw them make this thing, and I'm like, Channing Tatum and Sarah and Scarlett Johansson, right, making a movie about faking the moon landing, and it's a lighthearted rom-com. What? Yeah. So it was so strange, and I skipped it in the movies. I'm like, I'm not going to see that. That is super bizarre. It'd be like if you booked like Jenna Ortega and Timothy Chalamet in a flat earther movie. Like, who asked for this? Like, this is super, super weird, right? But then here's the other thing is you're like, nobody asked for this. Literally no one was like, I want a lighthearted rom-com about the moon landing being faked. Like, literally no one asked for this. No one ever said, I want to see that movie. Right? And then, but here, okay, so you're like, okay, well, yeah, I guess they make lots of movies about lots of different topics. This cost $100 million, right? There were 1,000 movies that would have made bank. This thing, and by the way, this made garbage money. Like, nobody went to see this. And anyone who greenlit this movie knew that it would not make its money back. They knew it would not make its money back, right? When you make this movie, like, and that's the other issue is like, wait a second, you're making $100 million movie that is not going to make even half its budget back, right? And so you're like, and nobody had to look this up. Everybody's like, people don't like to go see period pieces, right? Talking about the moon landing being faked upset people. Joe Rogan believed it and literally flipped his opinion because the opinion is so repugnant to so many people, right? This is a third rail. This is a skunk walking into a party. Everyone knew this, that no one wanted to see this movie, right? And so then you reach this point where you're like, okay, everybody knew this would be a failure. Everybody knew there was zero interest in this film. So why did it get made? Apple TV went to incredible expense, incredible trouble. They pushed off other scripts to make this, right? And so then now I fully understand what people think about my channel, right? I look at Fly Me to the Moon and I say, what the F is that? That is really, really weird. Why is this being made? And now I'm like, hey man, I'm just a dude from the South, from the South Philly suburbs, just saying what he believes about Dungeons and Dragons. Why are people upset, right? And I think the directors and everybody involved with it, they're like, we're just making a lighthearted comedy about 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 the moon landing being faked. And I'm like, this is a third rail, man. Like, this is incredibly strange, right? And weird, right? And it makes me nervous. It genuinely makes me nervous that movie was made. Because if I can't figure out what its purpose is, then its purpose is something I cannot understand. And that scares the crap out of me, right? Now, the one thing I will say is I don't go to, well, actually, I guess I do go to Apple TV every day. No, actually, I don't. I just watched this movie recently because they have a special right now, $2.99 for Apple. So I have Apple for 3 months. And I love to get Apple TV every now and then whenever I can get it on a deal, right? Or a 7-day, free, like whatever, and then cancel it the second I, have to pay, or the day before I have to pay. So that's the point. And so my point is, I don't come to Apple every day and go, you guys are weird, you guys are weird, you guys are weird. Like, I'm saying this once, right? And I really think it was incredibly strange that they made this, right? And that's one thing I don't. So I really do get why people are like, wait, I don't understand why you're saying what you're saying, Scott. And because I don't understand your purpose, I think the purpose is bad, right? Now, the reality is, I do think there's a possibility that there's some reason this thing was made that is not evil, possibly, right? But I get why people get nervous about my content. So and the only reason I'm making this is just like, I'm just sitting here in the South Philly suburbs, doing the best I can to, share my opinion, have a global platform that nobody has to pay for. I don't know, who am I harming? What does it harm? What's it hurt? And I think the people who made Fly Me to the Moon are the same way. They're like, what's it hurt? And I'm like, it could hurt a lot of things. Like, that is a wildly outrageous opinion you have there. That's a wildly outrageous topic to even discuss, right? And so that's the entire point of this video is my channel is so unique, right? That I understand why it upsets people. But just like Apple, I ain't gonna change it. But I did want to just give you guys an idea that I'm aware of the oddness, right? So, and I want to thank you guys for, if you stayed this long to listen to this extremely navel-gazing channel specific video. I really appreciate that. Every single word you just heard in this video is my humble opinion. Nothing more, nothing less. The important part is when I get to hear your humble opinion. When you get in the comments and send your traffic, please consider liking and subscribing, and have a fetch millennium.